questions that you have. Yes?
How fast does it load?
How fast does it load? What in particular? All of the devices?
Well, like if you're comparing the two of them, I know like my dad's laptop is really slow compared to
Uh-huh. Yep. So the iPad is really nice because pretty much you open it up, if it's password protected, you put in your password and boom, they're off and running. Okay? Now, again, it kind of depends on what you're using. Are you using web-based apps or are you using just apps that are stored on here? A lot of times if they're stored on here, they'll run nice and fast. If you're connecting to the internet, is the internet pretty fast around here in the school?
Sort of.
Sort of, not too bad. Well, let me just say that the internet is going to be upgraded, okay? The wireless will be upgraded in this building. So that, in fact, I don't know if we look around the ceilings if we can even see, they might be tucked up underneath. There are these little radio antennas. You've maybe seen them in some hallways. Just little, usually white square boxes that clip onto the ceiling grid. And those are where the Wi-Fi signal comes from. Okay? It's just radio frequencies. That will be upgraded so that when we have more devices, it will be faster. So the iPads are nice and fast. The Chromebooks are nice and fast too. When you open up a Chromebook, typically it takes about 8 seconds before you're online. If it's a laptop, whether it's a Mac or a PC, and you have to log into a network, that can sometimes take a little bit longer. And it will vary depending on how that's set up. All right? So if you have an older computer, most of the new computers, they're a lot faster. Okay? What other questions that you have? Mrs. Brewer?
They might not realize it yet because they're at the beginning of 7th grade, but they're going to be typing a lot more papers than they used to. So I was wondering if you'd be able to compare the keyboards on all 3 of those to let them know what's available to them, and then maybe talk about the durability of all.
Yeah, great question. Great question. So, how many of you have used iPads before? Yes? How do you like typing on these? Yeah, you in the blue and then in the Nike sweatshirt. How do you like typing on them? Right here.
I like it because it's just like the keys are like bigger than my phone, so it's like easier for me.
Okay? Yes.
I don't like how far apart it is.
You don't like how far?
Sometimes you have to reach close for it.
Okay. All right. Yes.
My dad's an iPad and he has this case and it folds out so then there's a keyboard so then you can just like, it's like Bluetooth so he just types and shows up on the iPad so he just types whatever he wants and then it is on the iPad so he doesn't have to use the iPad keyboard.
So do you like using that Bluetooth keyboard then? You don't like using this keyboard? Okay. Why?
Pretty small and it's not like the most efficient and it's like from what would be like you can just type like this but like you have to kind of move your fingers around if it's like if you can't use it face up so it has to be on the table to be more efficient.
Okay. All right. Yes.
I don't like it because it's really sensitive, so you can't rest your hands on it.
Yeah, you can't put your fingers right on it. Yep. In the
Kind
blue?
of, yes, kind of like what she said. You can't rest your fingers on it like you can a normal keyboard. And I'm used to having my hand position and like typing a bunch of stuff really fast, and I can't do that with an iPad.
Okay. Yeah. Yes.
I like it because you can just like sit wherever and just type with it instead of having like a huge laptop.
So you do like this type of keyboard? Yeah? Okay. Yes.
I got a Bluetooth keyboard for my iPad because I thought I wasn't going to like the keyboard, but I like it just as much as I like it.
All right. Great. Yes. Yeah. So, if we have time, I'll come back to that in a second. So a couple things about the keyboard. One is these keyboards you can change, okay? For instance, here's a regular keyboard, and how many of you have ever broken up your keyboard? So now it becomes a texting keyboard. And so in some schools that we go into, kids, they will just text with their thumbs, right? And so you have the ability to modify the keyboard. Now, even the keyboards are completely changing. And so actually have a keyboard on my iPhone here. Let me hop into it a second. That I don't even have to really type. Change my screen so you can see it a little bit better here. But it's a swipe keyboard, meaning that I never lift my fingers. And actually, it will predict what I'm going to say, predict what I'm going to type. And so if I want to type Spring Lake, I'll put a type there. Spend, okay? But if I type it again, Spring Lake, and so up on the top there even predicts what I'm going to be typing. So I can just start typing and I'd say, oh, spring break, and I will be there later. Okay? And so I typed that whole sentence just with a couple clicks. Now it predicted what it thinks I was going to say, but I didn't type it in the end. And so these virtual keys and keyboards, they're completely different. So, different schools that I get into, when you think of keyboarding, it's going to be different. Okay? How many of you use Siri or Google to type? So again, with that whole idea, when I am in the car and I need to text somebody, instead of actually typing in the car, I will just talk to Siri and she will dictate for me. Okay? And so I don't usually type on my phone. I just dictate. Now, does that mean that in your class, Mrs. Brewer and Mr. Brown are going to let you talk to Siri? Maybe, maybe not. Okay? And so I love these conversations with keyboards because what's it going to look like in 5 years from now? 5 years ago, we didn't even have that type of, well, the speed of voice dictation is not there. And so think about that keyboard, then think, what other tools do I use? Do I want to speak it? Okay? Do I want to type it? Do I want to swipe it? Do I like that physical keyboard? Question?
Well,
Comment?
I've got this Android phone, and it's got this feature where I can, instead of the keyboard, I can just use my stylus to write stuff, and it'll change it to type words and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. There are different programs that you can handwrite things, and it will turn it into text. Okay? And that's pretty cool, too. So think about those keyboards, but then by the time you're in high school, what's the keyboard going to be like? It might be completely different. All right? But more importantly, you guys, as Mrs. Brewer, I think, and Mr. Brown maybe told you, you're going to be kind of helping select that device for the other kids coming up. So you have to kind of weigh the pros and the cons, because this is a nice device, but I don't use this all the time. I have my phone. I have a laptop. Okay? I use a Chromebook as well. But there are multiple tools for multiple purposes. What other questions do you have, concerns you have about either of the devices, any of the devices out there? Yes?
Well, with the iPad and iOS keyboards, you have to go to numbers and type the number. But like regular keyboards, you can type all the numbers or really easy. And you can also for some keyboards you can press N and you can put up the volume or refresh the page.
Yeah, yep. Keyboards. When you, let me ask you this. How often do you type something for school? Do you type something daily? Once a week? Typically once a week? How about not for school? I mean, you type a lot of stuff on social network. Yeah? Are you pretty fast at typing? On your phone? Yeah? Why? You use a lot, right? Because you're immersed in it at home. Anybody speak foreign language in here? Yeah, what language do you speak?
A little bit of Spanish.
A little bit of Spanish? Are you taking Spanish right now, or how do you speak Spanish?
What?
how do you know how to speak Spanish?
I took Spanish kindergarten through 5th grade.
Okay. In a Spanish immersion program?
No, it was required from my old school.
All right. I have a fourth grader, and he speaks fluent Spanish, because he's in a Spanish immersion program. He's immersed in it, all right? Nobody taught him how to speak Spanish, he just learned how to speak Spanish. You guys will be technology immersed from here on out in your school. And so this whole idea of keyboarding, you're gonna figure out what keyboard or keyboards work for you, because you're gonna be using them on a regular basis. It's not gonna be going down to the computer lab once a week and typing on that. It's just gonna be like at home, you're gonna figure out this type of keyboarding, or this type of keyboarding, or speaking in the keyboarding, that works for you, okay? And so a lot of schools, a lot of students that I talk to, they have the same question, what about the keyboard? I go back later, is the keyboard an issue? No, why? They get used to it. They get used to it really on any different device, okay? But they're really great questions to have. I'll just let you know that when I see you in the hallways next year and I ask you, how's that keyboard? You're gonna say, getting used to it. And then when I see you at the high school, because you'll probably see me up at the high school, you'll say, it's fine, I can type really, really quick, okay? Because you're doing it every day. Question?
I like how they have like the shortcut keyboard, the keyboard things, like if you go into settings and then there's like extra keyboards that you add, and like I use emojis a lot, so I like that.
Yeah, there's all sorts of shortcuts, and like I said, now these keyboards, they will predict what you're gonna say, and I was just thinking about that last night, thinking, what are we gonna have to do as far as really actually typing? Because the technology will predict what we're typing. Do we have to learn how to spell every word? Do we have to learn how to identify correct words? Right? So it's gonna be kind of a question for your teachers, especially that teach spelling. Right? What are the